Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tajuddin Ahmed. I'm the chairman of the Programs Committee of the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce. Let me take that again because of the music interface. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tajuddin Ahmed, and I'm chairman of the Programs Committee of the Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce. I'm pleased to physically and virtually welcome you to this event, 2023 Sharing Experience Series, themed Leading to Impact. I'm particularly delighted to see our council and ESCO members, our distinguished speaker, a man of many parts, Dr. Segun Ogunsoya, the moderator, Mrs. Sholakwe Akinpelu, and all our esteemed guests. Please rise as we observe the Nigerian and British national anthems. Be seated, please. Indeed, God bless the King. Before we begin, please allow me to state some housekeeping guidelines on the script. For our physical attendees, questions will be answered during the Q&A session. Please raise your hands and a microphone will be brought to you. For those joining us in a virtual mode, if the volume is too low, kindly check your system volume. This event is being recorded and will be available live on our YouTube channel, Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, NBCC. For comments and discussions, participants should use the chat icon. Submit your questions via the Q&A icon or window. Only these will be answered during the question and answer session. For posts on social media, kindly use the hashtag NBCC Sharing Experience 23. Thank you for listening. Without much ado, please join me as we welcome our President and Chairman of Council, our Field Marshal, a lady of many parts as well, Mrs. Bisi Adeyemi, to give our welcome address. May we honor our President by clapping.
Thank you very much, Mr. Med. Members of Council present, members of ESCO, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our guest speaker and moderator. Good morning and welcome to the NBCC. I wouldn't waste your time by introducing you to the NBCs because I think a lot of you in the room are already familiar with us. But to just say that we are a 45-year-old organization, and our main objective is to deepen trade relations between Nigeria and the UK. And we do that via sessions like this where we share experience and then generally encourage our members to network. We began this series 2 years ago, and the main objective is to provide a platform for accomplished leaders in the organized private sector of the economy to share their experience in the areas of entrepreneurship, a professional career fueled by passion, audacity, and innovation. We have had the honor of hosting Mr. Atedo Peterside, Mr. Jimovia, Mrs. Adenike Ogunlesi, Mr. Agi Mokwede, Mr. Carl Toriola, and Mrs. Ireti Samadobu. It is therefore my pleasure to welcome today a distinguished guest speaker, Mr. Dr. Segun Ogunsanya, Group Chief Executive and Managing Director, Airtel Africa. Round of applause for him. His vision and education have been instrumental in shaping the telecommunications sector in Nigeria, and we are honored to have him here today to share his valuable insights. It's also my pleasure to introduce and welcome our moderator, our very own Mrs. Sholakwe Akinpelu, who chairs our technology committee and is CEO of Harvest and Country Director, Women in Nigeria. Round of applause for Sholakwe. I thank our sponsors, Airtel Africa, CWG, United Payment Platforms, for their immense generosity, and of course, Terragon. And I thank the programs committee for putting this together. Like you, I'm very excited to, and I can't wait to hear Mr. Ogunsanya share with us his deep and extensive knowledge. And I know Sholak will do justice to it. Thank you very much and have a good morning.
May we appreciate Madam President once more. Before I read this very short, very, very short profile of Dr. Segun Ogunsanya, because if we were to do justice to his entire profile, we'll be here in the next 1 hour. I'm going to speak off script. So if you're familiar with working in the professional service sector, multidisciplinary professional services, the defunct Arthur Andersen, KPMG, Deloitte, Ernst & Young, PwC, there's some cultural underpinnings in those firms. Refer to each other with first names, but those hierarchies still existed. So in the past, if you're old school, you called persons with whom you were employed at the same time members of your set. If you're new school, Gen Z, they coined the name cohort. Those are members of my cohort. Very funky name, isn't it? So in my cohort, 23 years ago when I joined the firm, you had a culture of people talking about people who did well. So I'm going to do an anecdotal positivism about the evil men do, live after them. So the good things men do actually also live after them. So there's a couple of our seniors in the firm then who people spoke so well about and passionately about. Without flattering him, Dr. Segun Ogunsanya was one of those few people who people actually spoke well about in the firm back in the day. Yeah, you can let the applause go on again. Now I'll go to the very, very short profile of Dr. Segun Ogunsanya, Chief Executive, Airtel Africa PLC. Dr. Ogunsanya is a distinguished leader with over 30 years of experience in consulting, professional practice, FMCG, and telecommunications sectors. He has proven his exceptional leadership skills as a former CEO of Airtel Nigeria, where he led the company to become the second largest mobile operator in the country with over 46 million subscribers. Dr. Ogunsanya graduated from Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, Great Ife. No, I didn't attend Ife. I attended ABU Zaria, just like Madam President, and our CEO, sponsor of Unified Payment System, Mr. Agada Apuchi. So there are enough ABU graduates here to counter any Great Ife. So. Dr. Ogunsanya graduated from Ife with a degree in electrical and electronics engineering and is a chartered accountant. Under Dr. Segun Ogunsanya's leadership, Airtel Africa PLC has continued to invest in its network infrastructure, expand its product offerings, and explore new business opportunities, making it one of the most successful companies in the telecommunications sector. His vision and dedication have been instrumental in shaping that industry, and we are honored to have him here today to share his valuable insight with us. May I invite to the podium a man of many parts, a distinguished Nigerian, a brilliant transformer, Dr. Segun Ogunsanya. I have another privilege to introduce one of ours, an Amazon, the chairman of our technology committee and chief executive officer of Harvest, Mrs. Sholakbe Akingpelu. Ms. Akingpelu is a highly accomplished business leader and gender finance expert. She serves as the CEO and co-founder of Harvest, a fintech company that provides inclusive finance to African women through goal-oriented savings, impact investing, and credit options for smallholder women farmers and women-led SMEs. Mrs. Akingpelu is the chairman of our technology committee at the Nigerian Chamber of Commerce, promoting technology, trade, and investment between Nigeria and Britain. Mrs. Akingpelu is also the author of the best-selling book, Stripped, An African Woman's Guide to Building Generational Wealth. I have the honor and privilege to invite my sister, chairman of our technology committee, Mrs. Sholakbe Akingpelu. In the next 1 hour, she'll be handling the fireside chat with Dr. Ogunsanya and the Q&A session. I yield the floor to you, Mrs. Akingpelu.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The task ahead of me is quite daunting, I must say, because I recall saying that sharing Dr. Ogunsanya's experience in 1 hour is what magicians do, but we'll make an attempt at that this morning. You're most welcome, and we're grateful for your time and the attention. I believe so much that it will be well worth it. You're most welcome, Dr. Ogunsanya. It's a pleasure being here with you.
Thank you.
And I'll go straight to, our questions. During this, I asked a few people, please, this is, probably a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, so get your questions in. And they did. And they started from, your consulting background.
Yes.
So the first question would be, how was your transition from consulting to industry? How did you achieve that? How was it? Looking back, would you do that again?
That was a very long time ago. It was in 1994. I qualified as a chartered accountant in 1993, thereabout. Then I stayed for a couple of years in Arthur Andersen. Then I joined a bank. I mean, right from my university days, I knew I wanted to be a business person. But secondary school, I was very good at figures, very good in maths, sciences, so I decided to go in for engineering. I did my youth corps at Siemens AG. During that time, I was convinced I didn't want to be an engineer. I just wanted to be a business person. So when Arthur Andersen came calling, I didn't have many doubts that was where I wanted to be. So after I qualified as a chartered accountant, I decided to go into the business world. Then I joined a bank, Citizens International Bank in those days, worked for Crystal. Then I joined Coca-Cola as the corporate treasurer for Coca-Cola. And that was the beginning of my journey into industry. It's been very well. I think if I'm to do it again, I'll follow the same path. Train as an engineer, because with the engineering background, it gives you a very wide perspective. You become very analytical, good with figures, able to challenge status quo, and with your accounting knowledge as well, make it easier for you to analyze financials, analyze business. So I think it's a great combination. And it came in very useful for me when I joined Airtel about 11, 12 years ago, because I was joining from Coca-Cola. We have been managing director for a number of years. So my engineering background years ago, combined with my FMCG experience, combined with my accounting experience, my banking experience, came in very, very useful when I joined Airtel. I like to say for you to succeed as a general manager, you must be very deep in one or two things. You must know something very, very well and be a general person in other areas. In my own case, very privileged. I had very deep knowledge of two areas of specialty, engineering and accounting. Then I also learned how to sell stuff from Coca-Cola. I sold Coke. Sorry, Coca-Cola, not the other Coke. I sold Coke for a long time. I was in Coke for 17 years. During my 17 years in Coke, I was MD for Coca-Cola in Ghana. I was MD in Kenya. Then I returned as MD of Coca-Cola bottling, Nigerian bottling company in Nigeria. So it's been a very good journey for me. And I think if I'm to do it again, I'll probably go through the same path. Train as an engineer, qualified as a chartered accountant, work as a consultant, banking experience, FMCG experience, and now choose whatever I want to do with life. But I've been very privileged.
Thank you so much. So that's the starter pack. Train as an engineer. I hope you got all of that.
Qualify as a chartered accountant.
Okay.
Do some FMCG.
Okay.
Then you're ready to take the world on.
You see, starter pack to take the world on as an African man, right? Because again, we have peculiarities, we have nuances around the continent as Africans. So when we see, our own, walking the globe, and it's always commendable. Thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Ogunsoya. And so the next question would be: what are the turning points, or what are the key points in your career journey that helped you gain clarity about your professional goals and ambitions? How did you navigate through those defining moments to emerge as a successful professional? And again, it's sharing experiences. Some key turning points are positive, some of them are necessarily not so. But we'd just love to, hear about those moments that were key and how you navigated them.
Let me take a cue from what you said about Africa and the Africans taking charge of Africa. Because sometimes we assume there are barriers, but the barriers are there because of lack of knowledge, lack of exposure, lack of awareness. So those barriers are very artificial. I've been privileged again. I'm the first African CEO of Coca-Cola company in Ghana, the first African CEO of Coca-Cola company, bottling company in Kenya, and I returned as the first African CEO of a Nigerian bottling company in Nigeria. As I speak now, Airtel Africa is listed in London with FTSE 100 company. I'm the only black CEO of a FTSE 100 company. This is just meant to encourage people in this room that there's no barrier. It depends on how wild your dreams are and what you do to achieve those dreams. So it's one thing to dream, you wake up, you don't do anything. It's the second thing to dream and do something about the dream. In my own case, when I left Nigeria in 1998, I was moved to Coca-Cola Bottling Company of Ghana as the finance director. And a year later, I became the managing director for Coca-Cola Bottling Company of Ghana. Since 1999, I was 33. The only job I've done is CEO from 1999. I've done nothing else except CEO in different companies, and I was only 33. So once again, age is no barrier to running the business. If I could do it at 33, anyone could do it at 32, 31, or at 40, 45. In my own case, I started early. And from 1999, the only job I've done is run different companies. And I credit this to a gentleman who was running Coca-Cola Africa then, a guy called Alex Cummins. When I became the CEO of Coca-Cola in Ghana, the gentleman came all over from London, and he said something to me. He said, from this moment, stop thinking like an accountant, think like a businessman. There's a difference between an accountant and a businessman. Get a very good accountant to be your CFO, but your job is to take risk. Let the guy worry about how to minimize the impact of those risks. And that was what I did. Got a very, very qualified person as my CFO. Then I focused on growing the business. And I turned Coca-Cola from loss-making. It was a joint venture between Coca-Cola and the government of Ghana. I turned it profitable within 3 years by focusing on growing the top line and allowed my CFO to focus on taking expenses out. My role was to just find ways of selling more Coca-Cola to more people every day. Let more people drink more Coke every day. Make sure they trade. And some worried about Coke. There's a balance. I don't work for Coke anymore, so they let me promote them. But in those days, it was just good. Just make sure that every outlet has enough Coke to sell. Make sure you give sufficient reasons to the customers to buy Coke. Nice marketing. But it worked, very, very well for us. How did I become the CEO of Coca-Cola Ghana? I was CFO, like I said, for a year and a half. And my boss, the CEO, got promoted, a white South African, to another role. And the directors were looking for a replacement. They've actually commissioned a search. Of course, they are looking for an expert. Then I got a call from a former colleague of mine, a woman, by the way, that I work with in Coke in the US. He said, Shegun, these guys are looking for a CEO, but I know you can do the job. Tell them that if they don't offer you the job, you're going to leave. But I knew they wanted you to remain as CFO. She was very frank. Americans can be very frank. So she knew that they wanted me to stay as the CFO, but I should just put my CV forward. And I wanted to pitch for the role. And if I'm not given, I'll consider other options. Of course, I said in my CV. But the turning point was a board meeting we had in Guinea-Conakry. Just as we were searching for a substantive CEO, interviews were going on. But because I didn't have a CEO then, I presented to the board. After that presentation, another board meeting was set, and I was confirmed the CEO the following day. I so much prepared for that board meeting. The lesson for everyone is you must be prepared. While I was CFO, because my boss then, typical expert, he loved the good stuff. So I was doing the heavy lifting. I was reviewing everything from production, marketing, sales, quality control. I just put my nose into everything. People knew if I didn't approve, I was going to go to the CEO anyway. That way I was so prepared. When I was presenting to the board, maybe because the expectation was very low, maybe that's also one of it. People were just surprised that a CFO could know so much about the business. But I knew what I wanted, and I went for it, and I prepared for that. So one lesson for everyone is you never know when opportunity is going to come. Always be prepared. 1999, I prepared. I didn't know when I was going to get the opportunity. It came early for me in life, thank God. A year and a half after I started the preparation, I got the opportunity to showcase what I had. It was recognized. And that's how I became CEO of Coca-Cola Ghana at 33. And she got the only job I've done since then is CEO.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ogunsoya. We just went through Africa, took us through Africa in the past 2 minutes. And it's so beautiful to see how being prepared, can change things for one. And that takes me to the next question. But I should mention for audience in the room and online to please share your questions because we'll start taking questions from you. It's Dr. Ogunsoya is essentially sharing experiences for all of us today. So the next question, you had mentioned risk-taking, and marketing. So I want to, pontificate on those two. How much risk is too much risk as a business owner? And what's the role of marketing? So it's interesting to learn turned a loss-making company into, that's what geniuses like yourself do. But what were the roles of risk and marketing and maybe other things that you've not mentioned in that we cannot, walk away with?
What I noticed when companies prepare their annual plans, budget, and some people call it, you keep competing with the past. You're not competing for the future. You don't really look at what the market is. You look at what you've done the previous year. You want to grow 5%, 10%, 12% over what you've done the previous year. But that's not the way to capture market opportunity. You need to look at the universe, what is available out there, and do your plans based on potentials of the future, not about what you've done in the previous year. That is one clear change I always make everywhere I go to. I've seen your historical performance, your capabilities, that's what it is. But this is what the market is. If you don't grab it, somebody is going to grab it anyway. So how do we grab this opportunity? It's not recklessness. I'm not suggesting anyone should be reckless. But you should just make sure that you know exactly your capabilities, what you do very, very well, and you can leverage that thing to capture the market opportunity. I've seen so many companies get disenfranchised because they're not doing what should be done. And other people, you've seen it with telcos. You've seen it with Nokia. There are so many other companies that leave money on the table. A smaller company comes in, they pick up the money because you're leaving so much money on the table. Either because you are satisfied with your previous successes or you keep looking for incremental growth and not step growth. 5, 6, 7%, it doesn't cut it for me. And I don't celebrate, normal performance. I really celebrate truly exceptional performance. If you do what you've been paid to do, that's why I'm paying you salary. The only time I celebrate is when you really do a lot more than what I expect. Growth of 20%, 22%, 25%, yes. But 5-10% is what I mean. We all get paid for anyway. Anything beyond, I don't get a bonus if I deliver 10% growth anyway. So that's the point I used to measure every other person.
Awesome.
But I mean, talking about risk taking as well, I wasn't so many people say this is long term, long term. Long term is a combination of many short terms. If you are putting something on the table, they are looking to make money in 5-10 years. You must pay salaries next year and 2 years' time. You must come to me with how you going to pay salary next year and 2 years' time. I recognize some projects have long years, 5 years, but as a good manager, if you want me to approve your project and wait for money to come in 5-10 years, you must tell me how you're going to pay salary in the next couple of months because the bills have got to be paid. So don't also get too carried away when people start talking about this a long-term project. It's just a very bad way of managing a business. You must have a combination of things you're going to do to safeguard your immediate future and your long-term. If you're not around for short-term, you're not going to have any long-term anyway. So your short-terms must be profitable and your long-term must also be very profitable. Both must happen at the same time.
So you take it in sprints. Thank you. Then marketing. Yes, the role of marketing. I mean, how did that play out in businesses?
Some people say marketing is, you're not sure how effective it is. That half of it is wasted, half of it is good. You don't know which half anyway, so that means you must keep doing it. And you must give somebody an incentive to do something. There are ways of making people do what you want them to do. Either you teach them how to do it, you give them a reason to do it, and those reasons are very emotional, some are very functional. You can't say what is not good. So the starting point of marketing is to make sure that functional, that the product is delivering what it's meant to deliver. Then after that, you now start working on the emotional attributes. How do you make somebody like you? How do you make a man like you? How do you make a woman like you? How do you make people love your product? What do you do? How do you tie the passion of your customers to the product you're selling? In our own case in Airtel, we look at music as a good passion point. We look at entertainment as a good passion point. In some companies, they look at other stuff, family. But you must really figure what connects people to your brand. And that connection has got to be entrenched. People must, when they talk about that particular passion, they must remember your product. Sometimes, you give freebies to encourage adoption. But the long term is to build equity. How do you ensure that people love you long term? How do you ensure that, when people mention a particular category, your name comes to mind? Because there's so much competition. If you don't create that affinity for your brand, if you don't renew that affinity, if you don't renew that love, it's like man. After a long time, if you don't renew that relationship, you start getting, obsolete. So you must figure whether you take her to dinner once every 2 weeks or whether she takes you to dinner once every month. It's both ways. So that's where you renew any relationship. And that's what I think about marketing. It must be renewed every now and then so that it becomes, fresh all of the time.
Thank you so much for that. And then I like that flip, right? And, going across Africa, you go to Kenya, last time Mauritius, and you want to get a SIM, it's Airtel. You want to get a telco. It's amazing how, and of course, you just mentioned how being deliberate, great product, and then renewal of that commitment to, subscribers help that, and that's quite commendable. I think we should give it up for Airtel Africa.
Thank you. We're the second largest telco in Africa. We have 14 different countries. So that footprint is quite wide, and we offer voice. I'm not marketing, but let me tell you what we're selling. We offer voice products, data products. We offer mobile money now, PSB in Nigeria. The largest, number one and number two in all of the countries where we operate, all the way from Rwanda, Kenya, Zambia, Malawi, Tanzania, to Nigeria, which is the largest market, Niger, Chad. We have DRC, Mozambique, Seychelles. 14 different countries, and it's quite a good footprint here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ogunsoya. And then my next question, it's around telco, actually. And it says, in your experience in the telecommunications industry, how would you describe the impact of telecommunications on driving economic growth and development?
It's amazing. I was having a short meeting with the Consul General at the American Embassy yesterday. And he mentioned to me how telecoms has transformed lives in different parts of Africa. And it's actually, I think, it's the largest contributor to Nigeria's GDP. We replacement industry. We replace so many things. We replace transportation. If you don't want to go somewhere, make a phone call. Some people are joining this virtually. It is enabled by telco. Health services, we offering telecare now. Education, we're working with UNICEF. We're the single largest private sector supporter of UNICEF. We put in $57 million to support UNICEF in Africa, in 13 countries. Because we've redefined education not to be within the four walls of a room. Could be anywhere. We're promoting digital education by supporting UNICEF. We're connecting schools to the internet. We're connecting students to the internet. The impact is just huge. Touch any industry. I say we're like an horizontal upon which every other industry stands. Whether it's banking, stand on telco. Whether it's health, whether it's manufacturing, we enable different areas of the industry. So I'm just very convinced that it's a very sweet spot to be in. And we started with 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, there is 6G in some countries already. And the thing is just to connect people. Either you're connecting people to their passion, connecting people to their businesses, connecting people to opportunities, connecting businesses to businesses. It's just the foundation upon which the modern industries rely upon.
All right, thank you, Dr. Ogunsanya. Connecting people, you said. Please, what's Airtel's slogan? I'm curious. Because I've heard a lot of connecting, so I'm like, okay.
We call ourselves a smartphone business. We're just about to launch a new campaign. I don't want to share
lovely.
That with you, but very soon you're going to see a new campaign across Africa that we're launching to just move that a notch higher than being a smartphone company.
Lovely. We're on the lookout for that. Mm-hmm. All right. So going back to leadership, I would say, how do you suggest aligning values and vision to achieve impactful leadership? So just to give some context, it's established that, 5%, 7% growth isn't, and I totally agree with that. And then in, leading a team towards growth, at times it might come off as, pressure, brash, So how do you create that balance, and then how do you personally align your values and then your vision to create desired growth, and then, still happy team?
Yeah. You must give people reason to believe in what they're doing. Otherwise, you're just going to be very mechanical with no passion. You must be very clear as to what is the greater purpose that you're serving. Because sometimes it's not so much about money. In today's world, anyway, stakeholders expect a lot more than profit from you. They expect you to support the environment. They expect you to have gender balance. They expect you to respect the rights to form unions. So many things come into determining how successful a company is. And those are the things you need to put across to people and make sure they buy into what defines that purpose beyond them in making profit. I've seen, especially the young ones in today's world, they don't care so much about the salaries. They can get the same salary somewhere. If they're not bound by that greater purpose as to what is in this for me, does this align with my own values, you're not going to get the best out of them. So you start from defining what is that greater purpose that you want to serve. We say we like transforming lives in Africa, but transformation is a key ingredient of any society like ours. So when you transform lives, a lot of people will buy into that vision. How do you transform lives? By connecting people to internet, by letting that woman in faraway village in the north pick that phone call and be able to talk to her son somewhere else, by letting that farmer somewhere be able to reach the market and sell his cocoa products for market price, simply by just creating opportunity for you to be better than what you were a few years ago, a few days ago. So that's our own purpose. We want to transform lives. Every other thing takes a key from that. For you to transform lives, you must be profitable anyway. You must create value. So you can see everything ties together. And for the employees as well, they want to be part of that bigger story. I've seen some of my colleagues who go back to where they come from to teach in schools, giving back. Actually not because I'm being paid, because I just think it's part of transforming lives. Whatever, no matter how little this discussion is worth, maybe somebody will pick something from it. It's just, immensely gratifying if you do something beyond money, if you do something beyond you. The satisfaction is not measurable. And that is why it's essential for every human being, every community will have a purpose. The purpose cannot be just to make money, because that can be replicated. Something must drive you beyond that love for money. And that is what you need to figure out. And you'll be amazed how that drives supernatural performance from people.
I agree. I live that reality. And, that just comes to reinforce again that the theme for this event is leading for impact. And I think Dr. Ogunsoya just summarized that in answering the last question, leading for impact. It's so gratifying. And I always say that, yes, you can make a business case and an impact case in one. There are two truths that can coexist for the greater good, especially for the continent. And thank you for taking me to the next question. You have touched on financial inclusion and gender, and I'll be doing a disservice to myself and the organizations I represent without asking. And that's to say specifically, how is telecommunications, particularly Airtel, fostering digital financial inclusion across Africa?
I wish I could share my phone with you. I just got a message from my MD in Madagascar, showing me how many women are in the ESCO team. And I'm ashamed because I have only one woman in my own African ESCO. So she sent me a message. I've been showing the women in the ESCO that in Mozambique, we have about 6 women in the ESCO, which is very, very gratifying for me when I see...
6 out of how many?
6 out of 12.
Oh, nice. That's 50.
They are not only... they are women of substance, pretty women, intelligent women. They deliver, so they are not mutually exclusive.
So no tokenization.
Yeah. Let me just... I'll share the picture with you.
Oh, beautiful.
So what do? We just launched a program called Women in Tech, which I did about a year ago. And the program is meant to encourage women to take active part in technology. Some women that we have, we see them in HR, we see some in marketing, but I want them to go into core network, to go into IT, to go into network. So we're encouraging them by having a mentoring program whereby they form groups of 10. Each group of 10 women will pick on a project they want to work on. And once they decide what that project is, they determine what resources they require. There's going to be a competition. They come and pitch to me and my ESCO in Dubai, and we select the winning idea, and we give them resources to develop the idea into fruition. That is one thing we do only for women. Only women are allowed to be part of that. And I think we've done about 60 women into 6 different groups, each groups of 10 women, so that in about a few months' time, they come in to share those ideas with me. But beyond that, I think it's actually the right thing to do. You are amazed, when you have diverse opinions in the room, whether you've got people from different countries. In my own ESCO, I have only one woman, but I have folks from 5 different countries. I've got South Africans, I've got Indians, I've got a Canadian, I've got a British, I've got somebody from Belgium, I am Nigerian. So it's a very diverse team, and the quality of the discussion is just different. The perspectives are different, experiences are different, the views are different. They just bring a very rich substance to the discussion. So I encourage diversity, not because it's a buzzword, because it's the right thing to do. It's actually adding value. Which is somebody who would share what is done somewhere else. And because the lenses by which you look at differences are influenced by our various experiences, they just make you a better person ultimately. So whether you're talking about ethnic diversity, gender diversity, age diversity, they're all essential in promoting inclusion and driving, best outcomes. In terms of what we do as telcos, we're driving digital inclusion by spreading coverage, digital coverage, network coverage. And one thing we launched in Nigeria is PSB, which is a mobile money business. It's done so well in East Africa. Everybody knows M-Pesa in Kenya. We've got different good stories in different parts of East Africa. It's just a way of lifting, especially women, out of poverty, out of, subservience to men. In some parts of Africa, women don't have their own wallet. They rely on their husbands for money for breakfast, money for lunch, money for dinner, money to buy the basic hygiene products that they require to have a meaningful life. But by letting them have this wallet, by letting them have their own savings, by letting them be able to transfer money or receive money from somebody. Sometimes when women receive money from their children, the men collect the money from them. I'm sure many in this room don't do that, but some bad men somewhere, they collect this money, they don't let women have access to the money. Of course, my preference is for every woman to earn her own livelihood. She shouldn't depend on anyone anyway. But in the early days of financial independence for women, and what we do is to create that independence by encouraging women who don't have access to bank accounts to have these wallets. The money is safe. And we also find ways for them to make money by earning money when they transfer money or when they do cash out for customers.
Thank you so much. I think that deserves a round of applause because I can relate. I can. And I'll tell you, with what we do, we go into this. And that's why when I talk about a lot of people, and that's why I realized when you go to other parts of Africa, a lot of people can understand what we do, especially when it comes to lifting participation for financial services for women. But when I go to the Gulf region, for instance, and you are talking, they just sort of zone out because they cannot relate. But when you talk about crypto, oh yes, they light up. And so I can totally relate. We do projects. There was a time we did projects in a community called Kwayakusa in Bono and Kuru in Jos. And apologies, I just want to illustrate further. And we learned that when men marry an additional wife, they go drinking. I thought, oh, so they're rejoicing they got another wife. They said, no, the man says they've gotten another tractor. Because a woman's labor on the farm is like another laborer. So that's another tractor. And I do not think that any woman or any human deserves to be treated that way. So seeing Airtel lifting participations for financial services for women is quite commendable. And that takes me to the next question. You not just an exceptional leader, you are a humane leader as well. So we are interested, what were the key factors and experiences that contributed to the discovery and refinement, I say refinement again, of your personal leadership style? And how have you leveraged this to achieve success in your career? I'm curious again to know, would like to know much about your background growing up, place of, things that refined you from the get-go.
I came from a middle income family. My parents were civil servants, and I'm the only boy surrounded by women, ladies. So I've been blessed by having women all around me. They dotted on me in my early days. Being an only boy has got its own advantages. So I sort of
Did they call you Okonla at any point?
They just dotted on me. So that was more than enough. But early in life, I also realized that it's got its own responsibilities as well. Privileges without responsibilities are always wasted. I knew I had to do something meaningful with the love, with the accolades, and with the challenge of being the only boy in a family of 7, including my parents. And I've always been driven by something, the love to just make an impact. And I say to folks in my office, if I'm not going to add value to any document, don't bring it to me. Just go get it done. You have your budget, go spend the money. If you reckon any document that comes to my table, if it's worth coming to my table, that means I'm going to add value to it. If I'm not able to create impact or add value to anything, I really just move away from it. That has sort of helped me shape the way I also value people. And it summarizes in one sentence I share with people, that you must fulfill your promises. I've seen so many employees, I've seen so many leaders who make promises and they don't fulfill the promises. And most of the people in this room, if you're looking for somebody to get something done very quickly, you know who to call. If you're looking for somebody to get something done very well, you know who to call. If you're looking for something that won't get done, you know who to call. We know those employees, and sometimes we don't say it very publicly. In my own case, I call them out. If you don't do what I want you to do, I ask you to go find work somewhere else. Of course, we try to find ways of making you do what we want you to do, but ultimately, I don't support people who don't deliver for a long time. I just don't have patience. So I just like it when my style is deliver what you promise. We're going to give you all the support you need, but as a leader, if you don't encourage performance, then you create a team of people who don't take performance very seriously. Because if you kill a fly or a mosquito with a hammer, it's not that mosquito. You're sending messages to those around the mosquito that this was going to happen to you if you don't deliver, if you start biting people, if you start sucking people's bulk. That's what happens if you have a system whereby you don't recognize good performance by creating good incentives, pay people very, very well when they do very well, and also make sure there is a price to be paid when they don't do very well. That creates a system where there's merit and people know that there's value in delivering what they promise.
Performance management is key. Thank you so much for that. This is just to remind us again to share our questions in the room and online so we can ask Dr. Ogunsoya while he's still here. Take this opportunity now. Like they say, going on. So we're still here. Another question, and it's about telecommunications. How would you propose navigating, or what are the peculiar challenges to start with? And then how would you propose navigating these challenges? What innovative solutions, are there possible, especially telecommunications in Africa?
Yeah, the challenges vary from country to country. In some parts of French-speaking Africa, it's about excessive taxation. But we seem to be the only successful company in most part of French-speaking Africa. So you see all these spurious demands by various tax authorities. We engage them. We work towards solution, but that has been a big problem for the industry. The second problem is spectrum, making it available at the right price. Sometimes if you buy spectrum and make it very expensive, it reduces the amount available for investment, for driving the right network coverage. The third one is also about people destroying telco infrastructure. You see people cutting fiber. Sometimes when you complain about bad service, it's not because the telcos don't want to give good service, it's because some people keep destroying the infrastructure. They cut the fiber. When fiber is cut, it takes time for it to be repaired. And sometimes there's no consequence when people cut your fiber. So if I'm to categorize the challenges we have, there'll be around 1, excessive taxation from different authorities. Number 2, destruction of telco infrastructure. And 3, sometimes you just pay so much for spectrum that it makes it more difficult for you to launch your network when you've paid millions of dollars for buying the spectrum.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ogunsoya. And so it's time for questions now. Do we have questions from the audience? All right, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for the honor. It's good to be a lady of days like this. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rita Ohai, Ohedemesi. I'm the MD Advising Research for a market research company. And it's an honor and a pleasure to listen to you share your experiences today. I want to piggyback on the question that Sholapi mentioned earlier, but I don't think that, maybe it wasn't answered because of the amount of time you had. And it's about financial inclusion, or maybe just inclusion generally in relation to impact. As far as the telco industry in Nigeria is concerned, over the last 20 years plus, we've seen significant penetration and significant growth in terms of the quality of service, like, the ones Airtel delivers, in terms of the reach and all of that. However, we find that, as you have said, that telcos provide a platform for other businesses. And other parts of Nigeria that are not rural, urban areas, like the cities in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt, tend to suffer a bit because of penetration. You go to a lot of these communities, if you travel to Adamawa, for example, you don't have Airtel service there. You would have to climb the tower, you would have to climb the hill to get connection and things like that. I think that Airtel has done significantly well, but what are the challenges from your leadership perspective now that is inhibiting this growth in non-urban areas across Nigeria? And what are you doing to facilitate the coverage of this gap in this sector? And then also finally, where do you see Airtel in the next 10 years? What are your growth plans? What is your vision for the company, especially in relation to the Nigerian and the African market space?
On a lighter note, you don't need to climb trees in Adamawa. I must say that, up front. The largest network in Adamawa State, we very much available in all parts of Adamawa State. So it's a delicate balance you make when you spread network coverage to non-urban areas. But there's cost to every tower you put out there. There's cost to the fiber you lay. And you need to marry that with the revenues potential. Because at the end of the day, you need to create wealth that you're going to invest. If you go to a village and you have only 100 people in the village. You put a tower, they cost about $3,000, by the way, to maintain a tower. That's your operating expenses, irrespective of the cost of the electronics you put out there. So it becomes slightly more difficult for coverage to be everywhere if the population is not there. What we do, all the telcos, if I took Nigeria as an example, we contribute money into a fund. That fund is meant to support rollout of rural network in areas where they are not viable for any private sector company to do. So we continue to work with the regulator. We continue to work with other telcos in spreading network coverage to those areas where they are not financially viable. But you need to just marry both at the end of the day, financial viability and the need to do good. They are not mutually exclusive. In some instances, we do make that call that we're going to plant a network, we're going to plant a tower even though it's not viable. Some governments are doing far better than the others. I remember the current governor of Kaduna State. I had a discussion with him about a year ago, and he offered to pay for certain parts of spreading network in Kaduna, and he did pay for what he promised to pay. And we've planted network in some parts of Kaduna that would have been otherwise not viable. Not viable for us. So it's a collaboration for me between the private sector, between the public sector, between civil societies as well, to create financial inclusion, digital inclusion. It's not only for the telcos to do. Everyone must come to the table to join us in spreading network to the very, very disadvantaged areas. There are some technologies coming up that make it faster. There's satellite technology now. It's still relatively expensive, but at least it makes it doable in some areas where access is a problem, where you're able to lay fiber, you're able to find line of sight. Because it's only the financial challenge. Sometimes the technological is also not possible because of some terrains. But with satellite technology, it's easier to actually beam the signals to the sky and bring it back to the world. So various opportunities have been exploited to create a coverage for everyone. I was reading some data from GSM some few days ago that almost 95% of the world is covered by network now, 95%. But the barrier is not only coverage, it's also about affordability. So sometimes the network is there, the folks cannot afford to pay either for the device, the phone to use and consuming the network, or for the voice, for the data. So we need to really solve so many problems. Our responsibility, we're going to provide a network. We also have to make sure the prices are affordable. But we need to create prosperity in general for people to be able to afford those things ultimately. So there's a coverage gap, there's a usage gap, and that usage gap is wider because people don't know how to use the network, can't afford to buy the devices, can't afford to pay for the products. So it's actually a multifaceted solution that we need to bring to support those in rural areas. Talking about Airtel, so we're listed, so they're limit what I can say if you're a listed company. Otherwise, what I say is going to be held against me by investors. My vision is to create a very, very viable business in Africa. We continue to, if you look at what we've done historically, we've grown revenues by mid to high double digits. EBITDA is about 49%. We're one of the most profitable telcos in Africa. We've got the widest footprint. We continue to deepen our penetration in countries where we operate in. In some countries, we've got almost 95% coverage. In Uganda, we've covered almost all of Uganda. Nigeria is about 80%. DRC, one of the largest countries in Africa, only about 60% coverage. In Tanzania, 75% coverage. You can see the opportunities available for us to spread our coverage in most parts of Africa. But as a responsibility we've taken, that we're going to continue to drive both financial inclusion, digital inclusion, and at the same time support the lives that we touch in the 14 countries where we operate. At least for now, we're limiting ourselves to the 14 countries. There's no immediate plan to go beyond those 14 countries.
Thank you, Dr. Ogunsoya. That's quite comprehensive. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Good morning, Doctor. Thank you so much for sharing all the useful insights, especially the concept of taking care of the short term, because in the long term, everyone is dead, I assume. I must also congratulate you and commend you. By the way, my name is Jude Chemeka. I'm the divisional head for capital markets at the Nigerian-British Limited. And when I saw the advert for this program, I just felt that I needed to be here to just commend you as the most valuable company that is listed on the Nigerian Exchange today. obviously, just from the figures you gave, it's clear what is driving that. But my question is really around, in terms, just through your lens, to talk us through that journey, especially for some of the companies who are contemplating doing the same, just getting listed on exchange, just to get your perspective of the value through that whole journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We're listed on 2 different exchanges. We're listed in London. We're one of the 100 largest companies in UK, like I said earlier, although we're the largest in Nigeria. It's got its own good side. It's got its own tough side in terms of accountability, which is why there are some things I can't disclose because we're listed in London, because we're also listed here. But overall, I mean, it's always good to share your prosperity with those who give you that prosperity. Nigeria is our largest market. About 40% of our revenues come from Nigeria, so it's a no-brainer that we're listed in Nigeria. And there are advantages when you're listed, because other investors look at it very differently. They know your governance is actually world-class. So if you can't be listed in UK and do bad stuff anyway, and you can't be listed in Nigeria and do bad stuff as well. So that raises, the bars to the category of investors. They're very long-term. The way they really drive your value is different from when you are not listed in a reputable stock exchange. In terms of the journey, it's been a very smooth journey for us to get listed. I remember we got listed in 2019, and I had a meeting with Oscar. Oscar was the CEO of the stock exchange then, one meeting at the boat club. I listed all the requirements he wanted, be able to repatriate dividends, blah, blah, blah. I must just say that, I don't know if you were there in the early days. It was a very smooth journey for us. I think within 1 month, we were able to satisfy most of the requirements. The SEC also came in. The custodian of security, CSCS, came in. Joint meeting between 3 different parties. Very smooth journey. And I encourage anyone who really wants to expose their company and create more prosperity for more people and have access to more financing to find ways of listing on any stock exchange, preferably the Nigerian Stock Exchange. I come from Nigeria ultimately, so I need to promote the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
Thank you, Dr. Ogunsoya. We have more questions from the room. Ms. Kayode, do you have a question? Okay. All right. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Great delivery, Doctor. I really appreciate what you've done here, sharing your insights. Back in the days, there was this Project Rose, rolling out service everywhere, which actually puts Airtel in a very great position in the telecom space. Now, at a point, that project stopped. I would love you to throw some light because it really helped to, deepen that penetration across the Nigerian space. And at a point also in my professional career, I was also privileged to work with an OEM to roll out services for Airtel in the southeast part of Nigeria. And the second one is when you talked about the role the Kaduna state government played. And I see a lot of prospects there. Is there a way to engage the NCC, for example? Because I hear you say cost of the spectrum, which is real in our society today. Is there a way to engage them? Because if you pay so much for spectrum, as a business, you need to also create that wealth for the investors and all that. Is there a way to come to a kind of common ground? Because it's not all about the NCC or the government making so much money and say, for this spectrum, we made XYZ amount of money. What will be the impact to the Nigerian population that's going to also get benefit from this spectrum? Because you are going to invest, you are going to buy equipment, you are going to bring in professionals from around the world to do some installations. Thank you.
Yes, let me just qualify what I said. When I speak about spectrum, I'm not talking about Nigeria specifically. I'm the group CEO for Airtel Africa, not for Nigeria. So my comments are actually not meant for Nigeria. They're meant for all the countries where we operate. So that has to be properly explained. I'm not talking about pricing in Nigeria. We have regulators in about other countries. General comment about how spectrum pricing would inhibit investment in the network. That has to be cleared. And the project you mentioned, I took over Airtel Nigeria about 11 years ago, 2012 or 2011, and I left about 2 years ago. And that project you mentioned actually did a lot of good stuff in spreading the coverage. It also created so many problems. I remember when I took over in 2012, I went around where most of the sites were situated, the towers. Some actually in the bush. Some are behind people's houses. People just, sometimes you create a good thing and some bad stuff happen from that good thing. So at some point, about 20% of those are actually located in areas where they're not viable. Mainly because somebody's got a place behind his house or his father's house, and they put that site forward. Somebody went there, planted the site there. There are no people around. Monkeys, dogs are the ones who are around. We had so many of those instances. So that was why that project was actually suspended. It was an opportunity for good and for bad. And we just were not able to separate the good from the bad. Now, for us to put a site somewhere, there's a methodology that is followed. You must know how many people are in that area, the community of interest, and the cost to put the tower there. Luckily, we have tower codes now. We don't have to put up the thing ourselves. If there's opportunity for sharing, so many things go into determine whether to put a tower or not. In the past, it wasn't very well done. In those days, it also made sense anyway, but those are early days. But after some time, it just wasn't working again for anybody to just call in and say, I want the site behind my house, and you go and plant the site behind his house. It just wasn't sustainable.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ogunsoya. And I have questions here from our virtual attendees. I'll take two, in one breath. So the first says it's always very difficult for HR professionals to transition into core management CEO level. What do we need to do to break that barrier? And the second one says, how do you combat unpronounced nepotism or racism in a multinational company organization like yours?
Let me take that second one first. To be honest, where you come from doesn't matter in a multinational business. It's about what you can do, honestly. I've benefited. I'm black, like most people in this room, and I've been CEO in 3 different countries. I'm running one of the largest companies in the world with number 80 in UK. So that shows the color is not a barrier to whatever you choose to do. It's about what you have and how you can articulate it. People also need to know what you can do. Sometimes we're victims of lack of exposure anyway. If you're exposed to decision makers and they're able to see what you can do, everybody wants outcomes. They don't care what you look like. They just want to be sure you're able to deliver. So I can say categorically that your color, your accent, it doesn't make any difference. It's about what you can deliver. If you really want to work, if a company that you want to work for places a lot of premium on what you look like, then don't join that company. It's a bad company. Good company don't care where you come from. They just care about what you can do and how you're going to do it. Because values are also very important. What you're going to do and how you're going to deliver, that's what is very important. I can say confidently that, we don't have any room for nepotism. There's what I call we doing now, which is, gender bias. So that's the bias which I'm happy to confess we have. We're looking for more women. We don't have enough women in leadership positions. So we actually bias towards, women now. And we need to just get that number right. So that's one bias we have. It's not about tribe. It's not about color. It's about a bias with a particular gender that has been disadvantaged in the way we run businesses. Now back to HR. Traditionally, it's been slightly more difficult for those in HR to assume CEO roles, mainly because you need 2 key expertise. You need knowledge about sales and distribution. You need knowledge around accounting, finance, and a bit of technical. But I also know somebody who is transited from being an HR to an operating role. It's a deliberate path. You must choose to leave and maybe take a role in other areas. But nothing stops you from moving from HR to manufacturing to network to IT, spend some time there, and gain a lot more experience. Like I've always said, you can't be a general manager unless you know a bit about everything. A specialist is not going to make a very good CEO. You must be a general person on top of being a specialist. Know a lot about one thing, but maybe spoil about many things as well, so that you're able to add value to the discussion. So my advice to those who specialize in one core area, not only HR, is to just find opportunities to work in other departments, get a feel of how money is made, how money is lost, not only how you treat people, and you're able to make a better impact as a CEO.
Thank you so much. I'm sure we've all learned from this. I can hear sighs from different corners of the room. Any other questions? We're rounding up. Yes, so we have a gentleman over there. Over to you, sir. Can we get him a microphone? Thank you.
Good morning, sir. Wow. Listening to your presentation and your experience, one thing that first hit me was 33, CEO. I was just looking at myself, that 33, I'm preparing to become an MD. That's my idea. I was preparing for my wedding. So my name is Melarius Mokiko. I work with Unicaf. I'm the country business manager for Unicaf. Sir, I've been following telecoms. I've had discussions, even interview with a particular one, and I've been reading about the exploit you've made in the PSB business. You came in not quite long, and you have taken over that share of the market in Nigeria, within a very short time. I just want to know that what is it that you are doing differently? Because I think in this part of the country, it was something like maybe it wasn't going to happen, and Airtel just came in and just took it over. So, sir, what are those things that you want to share because of competition that's putting you ahead of others in that category? Because there was a particular one I did up till now, they have not even started, and I just see the way you are flying in that realm. Well done, sir.
Yeah, thank you. I don't think telcos have taken over the money space, to be honest. I don't want the bankers here to start getting very jealous or the governors start getting worried. There's a very long runway to success in the PSB space. What are we doing now? We're focusing on 4 different areas: creating a very wide agent network, creating a very wide merchant network, and having a very stable IT platform. Those are the 3 key essentials for a successful money business: merchants, agents, your platform. Now we're beginning to open wallets, customer wallets. And when you open wallet, you need something to do with the wallet. That is use cases. So we also work with different stakeholders to have a lot more use cases. Whether you want to pay for your electricity bill, you want to pay for DSTV, you want to transfer money, or you want to take loans. Those are the use cases we're working on. I think there's a very, very massive opportunity that is available to be tapped. I'm very bullish about this opportunity. We waited for a long time before we got a license. We finally did. And I must say I'm very excited about not only the fact that we're going to make money, but what I said earlier about driving inclusion, financial inclusion, the impact, especially with women. That's probably a big agenda for me. We make enough money from selling recharges, but we just want to be sure that we create an impact within the women so that we have a more balanced society, whereby it doesn't matter whether you're a man or woman, you have access to financial independence.
Thank you so much, Doctor. That's close to our heart, and I'm sure that President is happy. I could see her smiling about that, right? Yes, so this might as well be our last question. And someone says, I'll just take 2 in 1, so we'll breeze in. What are the future trends to watch out for in the telco industry? And then what are your aspirations over the next 5 years, noting the political and socio-economic climes in Africa? We are curious.
Okay, that's the easy one. The second part, I don't want to put anyone under pressure. I want to remain in the business world. I've signed to a particular tenure. Second year into that tenure, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. And I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing unless something that is truly more impactful than what I'm doing comes up. Then I will consider, but I'm happy being a businessman, happy being a CEO. Yeah.
Yes, then the future trends for telco generally.
For the future trends, it's about, I'm sure you heard about artificial intelligence, you heard about automation, you heard about cars without drivers. As you speak now, you can turn off the light in your house by just pressing the button on your phone. I mean, I mentioned education. I don't have to be within the four walls of a classroom. For health services, you don't have to go see a doctor. Surgeries are being performed by robots controlled by communication. I think the world is just going to be a new world in a couple of years. You've got the first industrial revolution, second, third, the fourth one is about data, and I think it's going to truly transform the world the way we know it. I mean, as we speak now, the youths, I mean, they smile on the phone, they say things on the phone without even seeing them physically. It's unbelievable what is truly, truly doable with connectivity. You're able to connect people to passion, connect people to businesses, connect people to education, connect people to entertainment. So the world as we know is going to continue to evolve with the power of telecommunications.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ogunsoya. Just one last question from the room.
It's from me. Good morning, Dr. Ogunsoya. My name is Lara Kayode. I work at Okayode & Co. I'm an intellectual property lawyer. My last question, or the last question, is really an AI-assisted question, because I put it in one of those chatbots, and this is my question, because I wanted to know about your work-life balance. It's a question that we get asked all the time as women leaders in business. But I wanted to ask you, and the question is asked me to ask you is this: what steps do you take to maintain a healthy work-life balance? Do you have any tips and strategies for prioritizing your time and avoiding burnout? You've been at it since 33 as a CEO. And how do you encourage your employees to prioritize their own work-life balance? And if there are any policies or programs that your company actually has in place to support this? Thank you.
Thank you. Happily married to one wife, so that works for me. I've got 2 children. And what I do every day is to just take a walk. I've done it this morning for 30 minutes to 1 hour for those who live close. I live very close to my office, so it's actually easier for me to walk in the morning. And that's some religious thing I do every day. Make sure I walk for 30, 40 minutes. Apart from stretching my legs, that clears my head. That's part of me creating a work-life balance. I also value time with the family. I mean, most time my day ends around 7, to be honest. It starts around, maybe I wake up like 5:36, check my emails, go for my walk. But by 7 p.m. I shut down. Have dinner, watch TV for 1 hour, then probably do meals between 9 and 10. But I spend time with the family. To be honest, I think you create time for what is truly important for you. It's a decision you have to make that you must find time for your spouse, you must find time for your children, you must find time to exercise, you must find time for your spiritual life. I go to church on Sundays. I know some CEOs who just can't find time to do anything. They work 7 days a week. I don't think any business requires to work 7 days a week if you're very efficient. So my own life is around 3 things: the work, the family, my spiritual upbringing, and I also spend time with friends and whatever. So it depends on you. It's a decision you need to consciously make. For instance, I've chosen to take next week off. So I'm going to be on vacation next week. I'm spending time here with my family. Something you just have to do consciously. I'm going to delegate my authority to the CFO, because if something happens to you the following, they're going to appoint somebody to act in your stead anyway. So why not just begin to practice by delegating and having a lot more people to work with you, so that you can truly do only things that can be done by you. One thing I also have, anything that should be done by somebody else, I don't do it. Even though I can do it. It's my philosophy. If something should be done by somebody else, I don't do it. That way, I do only things that can only be done by me. And I free up so much time. Just decide whether this should really be done by you or it can be done by somebody else. You'll be amazed how many things you can push down when you have capable people who are able to support you. And you can have more time to really do things that can only be done, like spending time with your family, that can only be done by you. Somebody can do that for you.
Thank you so much. I think we should all give Dr. Ogunsoya a huge round of applause. And that brings our fireside chat Q&A to, an end. I know we could go on and on, but again, we're so appreciative of your time and how much you've shared. Thank you so much, Dr. Ogunsoya.
May we give Dr. Ogunsoya another thunderous ovation as he takes his seat. That was an exhilarating session we had with Dr. Ogunsoya. No holds barred. Thank you, Dr. Ogunsoya, for that very, very rich insight that you've provided to us. May I invite the Vice Chairman of our Advocacy Committee of the Chamber, Mr. Segun Akintemi, to give the vote of thanks. Mr. Akintemi, may we welcome him, please? You're welcome, Mr. Akintemi.
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. And I would want to start by saying that I am not surprised at the presentation of Dr. Ogunsoya. For those of us that have interacted with him over the years, I mean, from his days in Airtel, from actually his days in Coca-Cola and Airtel, we are not surprised at all. And I must say a very big thank you to you for honoring us at the chamber. And I must say a good thank you to our moderator, Mrs. Sholakwe Akinpelu, who has done a fantastic job to pose all those questions. Just to help the chairman of the programs committee, I have done just some little snippets into what he has said, and I'll summarize in 4 things. 1, he said, be prepared. And I remember I was a member of a Boy Scout, and that was the motto of a Boy Scout, be prepared. So that's an easy way of remembering that. Second, he mentioned about competition, and he said you don't compete in the past, you don't compete in the present, you compete for the future. So it's important we understand the fact that when we're competing with people, we don't compete based on historical experience, we don't compete based on where they are, but we compete based on the future. Third, he said long term is a combination of many short terms. So we tend to think that we can, make long-term plans and plan into the future. But the truth is that if we identify short steps, we'll be able to achieve so much mileage. And the 4th, from my own perspective, is purpose beyond money. A lot of times we tend to feel our impact point has to be money. I tell my colleagues in the office that we're about 25, 26 million people in Lagos. And more than 95, 96% of that population don't have anyone to say, good morning, how are you, to them. We underestimate the impact of this. We talk about mental health. If you analyze how many people have serious mental health issues in Lagos, just walk from this road or from this entrance to the junction, more than half of the people have mental health problems. And you can see it. Even the way they drive, the way they talk, there's so many problems. So just saying hello to someone and saying good morning, even with a smile, is enough to soothe the problem that people are carrying and the burden on them. So don't let's feel it's about throwing money at everything. No, but just being human and humane. So I want to thank Dr. Ogunsoya once again for a fantastic presentation, and I think he deserves a rousing round of applause. I thank the chairman of the council and the president, Mrs. BC Adeyemi, and of course our patrons and our council members. I must thank our sponsors too, Airtel Nigeria and Unified Payments, which is represented by the CEO, Mr. Agada. Thank you very much for coming. I thank everyone who has taken time out to be here, despite our busy schedules, and of course those that are online. I thank the programs committee. I thank the headquarters of the NBCC too. I must, at this point, talk about the upcoming events of the council. First, we have what we call the NBCC LET training program, which is scheduled for the 20th of April. And it's on the positive workplace. So you're all invited, and of course, discounts are available for those that want to join. The call for nominations as a mentee or a mentor for the NBCC Next Generation Leaders Program on the 27th of April. You can visit the website of the chambers and any of the social media handles to register. We have our May breakfast meeting, which is scheduled for the 18th of May, for those that will be interested in attending. And, of course, we'll be happy to welcome you. We have the trade mission, which we've talked about over and over again, the 2023 trade mission to the UK, and it's going to be held simultaneously in London and in Birmingham. This is scheduled to take place from the 21st to the 27th of May. And of course, where you're interested, please feel free to join us. It's going to be a very, very interesting session. And we're going to move around a lot of the chambers within the UK. And of course, as you can see, our plaza, where you are presently seated, is open with state-of-the-art facilities for you to explore in terms of corporate events, trainings, sessions, seminars. We have different sizes of rooms which are available to be taken anytime you'd require. And you could reach out to the chamber through our offices or through our website. And of course, it's important. We love your feedback from the session you've experienced today and your experience and interaction with the chamber. And you could scan the barcode on the screen, which is presently on the screen now. So you might want to scan it and fill our feedback form, which would help us to improve in terms of the programs and services we offer. If you're interested in becoming a member, which I'm sure you will be by the end of this session, visit our website, which is nbcc.org.ng, or meet the membership team at the registration desk downstairs, and we'll be happy to have you. It's a very interesting chamber, as you can see, and the benefits you derive far outweighs your just being a floor member. In terms of interaction, in terms of attending our programs, in terms of interrelating, one or two people have said, they'd never expected you'd have the opportunity to be in the same room with someone you see on TV, or maybe you just see when he's making a presentation or ringing the bell at the London Stock Exchange. And here you are, you have the opportunity. We've had several programs, Meet the Governor series. We've had on this podium governors of different states across the country come to sit and interact with us. So there's so many benefits of being a member. So I'd appeal to all of you once again to ensure you join. And of course, we are on all the social media handles on Instagram, NBCC_NG, on LinkedIn, Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce, and of course on Facebook, Nigerian-British Chamber of Commerce. And we look forward to welcome you all. Once again, thank you very much for attending this session, and have a very, very good morning.
Thank you, Mr. Akintemi, for the vote of thanks, a very rich one at that. The next item on the agenda is to present gift to our guest speaker. I'll invite Madam President to come and present a gift to Dr. Ogunsanya. Well-deserved gift at that. Dr. Ogunsanya, may you come up? We have order of photograph. Dr. Ogunsanya, please remain. And Madam President, our sponsors, CWG, Unified Payment Systems, Airtel. Photograph with Madam President. Guest speaker. And Terragon. Terragon, please. president and the guest speaker to still wait behind. Moderator should join them. Zaki Pelu. Guest speaker, Madam President, still remains standing. Sorry, this is my call. I have the microphone. So, our members of council should join them. Deputy President with them still. The guest speaker, Madam President, should remain there. Our Deputy President should join them. Members of the Programs Committee after this. Members of the Programs Committee. Scholar show my deputy, Mrs. Iroma. This is the final. You can now go networking.